Sent from Disneyland, history in our hand. So much to say about yesterday and the decades we have spanned. Postcards from the park, this journey will embark. See what has changed and what remains on Sent from Disneyland. Sent from Disneyland.
Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this podcast, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland, Disneyland history, and more, with mementos, snapshots, souvenirs, and postcards sent from Disneyland, from 1955 to the present. Let's start by thanking my patrons from Patreon.com. You can join in at any level to support the show and receive snail mail from my trips to Disneyland and from my desk, plus some sneak peeks and bonus content. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the rest of the e-ticket patrons, to Nia, Eric Daniels, Monica Seitz Vega, Scott Cagle, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Angela Reynolds, Grace Coate, Patty Wolin, and Ben and Noel Bruning. B-ticket patron Joshua Bell, and to the A-ticket patrons Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Angel DeBlock, and the Beyond the Railroad podcast. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has a loading dock for the Jungle Cruise. You can see guests loaded on the Ganges Gal, leaving for a trip around the jungle rivers of the world. You can also see the pontoon boat, as well as the Jungle Cruise's original queue. On the back it reads, "From this tropical dock, passengers board the Adventureland boats for a safari trip through a wonderland of nature's own design, down the jungle rivers of the world." It's postmarked January 1st, 1962, with a Los Angeles cancel and a 5-cent blue Monroe postage stamp, Scott number 1038. I assume they visited the park on Saturday, December 30th, 1961, when park hours were from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. The weather was a high of 72 and a low of 37. Park attendance that day was 34,010. It's addressed to Mr. and Mrs. John Winters of Akron, Ohio. It reads, "Hi, we are having a wonderful time. The weather is just grand, and we are hoping it stays that way. We went down to Mexico yesterday and had a lot of fun. As ever, Tex, Eileen, and Josephine." Tex, Eileen, and Josephine would have been able to experience a unique free attraction at the park. Although it was never listed on a map or mentioned in a guidebook, it all has to do with a movie that I watched last weekend on Disney+. Babes in Toyland is a movie that I'd seen many years ago but had not revisited in a while. Before we delve into how it's tied to this postcard and Disneyland history, let's talk about the film. The movie was loosely based on the 1903 operetta set in and around the characters from the stories of Mother Goose's nursery rhymes. The original show was produced many times in New York and on tour between 1903 and 1931, always playing around Christmas time as there is a tie-in between Santa Claus and the master toy maker of Toyland in the show. The story and show were popular enough to be adapted in 1930 for RKO Pictures with Laurel and Hardy, as well as 3 television versions being made between 1950 and 1960. Walt Disney acquired the rights to the story in the mid-1950s, planning on making it into an animated feature film. Many versions of the script were made with different alterations of the original plot. Imagineer and animator Ward Kimball was in charge of the project for a time, but as time drew near when Walt Disney would lose the rights of the story, plans were changed. The new movie would be live action, Disney's first full live-action musical, and would star Annette Funicello. Jack Donahue was brought in to direct, and Ward would direct the Toy Soldier March and Battle. The movie also starred Ray Bolger, the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz, Tommy Kirk from many live-action Disney films, and Ed Wynn, the Mad Hatter from Disney's Alice in Wonderland. George Bruns adapted the music from the original operetta for the movie. See episode 247, Sent with George, for more of his history with Disney. The movie started filming in 1961 and was released to theaters on December 14, 1961. Add some flair to your mail by checking out stamps at Enfield Post. You can explore different stamp options on our Etsy site, grab some great deals by following EP Sunday Sales on Instagram, or create something special and have her design a stamp array for your invitation or celebration. You can head over to EnfieldPost.com and explore all the different vintage postage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram, and EnfieldPost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has toy soldiers walking down Main Street. Overhead, there's garland tied to a wire with red bells. In the background, you can see the flocked, white, decorated Christmas tree in Town Square. And if you look closely, you can see the Town Square flagpole behind it. On the back it reads, Christmas Parade. Disneyland guests welcome the March of the Toy Soldiers, one of many attractions spreading joy and happiness during the Magic Kingdom's annual Christmas Parade. It's postmarked January 2nd, 1967, with a Los Angeles always use zip code cancel, and a 5-cent blue George Washington postage stamp, Scott number 1283. I assume they visited the park on Sunday, January 1st, 1967, when park hours were from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. The weather was a high of 65 and a low of 39. It's addressed to Lester Stewart of Alexandria, Pennsylvania. It reads, January 1st, 1967. Dear friends, this place is more of a robbery than any carnival. Nothing free. Spending 1 week in LA. This place is 30 miles southeast. Expect to go to Tucson next week, then on to Mexico City. Happy New Year, Horace. Just 3 days after the film's release, some of the sets from Disney's Babes in Toyland were available to see by the public at Disneyland. The Main Street Opera House was originally the lumber mill while the park was being built and had never been used for guests to enjoy. Walt took the opportunity to promote the film at the park and move some of the trees, parts of Mother Goose Square, and the toy factory to fill the empty space at the Opera House. A cast member would also dress as the Bo Peep character for photos inside the Opera House. Although the movie did poorly in the box office, the exhibit lasted until September 30th of 1963. It was replaced by the Mickey Mouse Club headquarters. Another Babes in Toyland addition to the park can still be seen today. The design for the movie's toy soldiers are similar to the toy soldiers used in Disneyland in 1960 for the Christmas parade called the Parade of Toys. They've been part of the Disney Christmas Parade every year since then. So even 60 years later, there's still a reference to the movie in the parks. They were even included on a postcard, the one used for this episode. My incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is a craft hour on Instagram, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 Pacific. Art Throwdown is a wonderful community of artists who love to share their craft, from creating sticker postcards and coloring techniques to intricate paper cutting and unique crafting. It's always a treat to watch a show and occasionally get some one-of-a-kind postcards from the group. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. The front of my incoming greeting card has a fold-out beach scene. Extending out of the sides of the card, there are penguins and polar bears enjoying some fun in the sand and in the water, including a penguin on a floating, inflatable flamingo, a polar bear driving a penguin on a jet ski, while other penguins and polar bears play in the sand. It's postmarked December 12, 2024, with a San Francisco cancel, and a 2020 green, red, and white stocking with holly and teddy bear on a red background Holiday Delights Forever postage stamp, Scott number 5528. It reads, For a season filled with fun. Clocky and Misty, hope you have a wonderful Christmas season. Jim and Sean. Thank you so much for the card, Jim and Sean, and the wonderful stickers. Jim is the sticker man from the Art Throwdown. I'm always impressed how many stickers go into making his postal art. The envelope for this card has a few Trader Joe stickers, as well as some fun snowman stickers and a festive dachshund. It's also great to get a second fold-out card, as I received one last week and talked about a Disney version in last week's episode. Jim also threw in a few stickers to use on my next few pieces of mail. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment on whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/sentfromdisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Sent from Disneyland or my website, sentfromdisneyland.com. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent from Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney-related properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to the host and guests of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. This podcast is produced and edited by Clocky McDowell, website designed by Misty McDowell, Theme song was written and performed by Noah Sunday Lefkowitz. Take it away, Noah.